We're glad that you're with us. And remember, follow us on YouTube and subscribe. Like us on Facebook. You can follow us on iTunes, on Google Play. And we're glad for all the suggestions and the feedback. And I am delighted to have this man with us. He is a great friend of mine. We've known each other for years. I had the pleasure of working with him for several years at NBC. He is one of the all-time great jockeys. Gary Stevens joins us from his backyard in Southern California. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Kenny. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, my friend. I was asking you earlier, just before we came on here, because you're about 3 weeks removed from back surgery, the back surgery that finally forced a retirement. How many times have people asked you about your back surgery?
This morning, or since it happened? I was out to Santa Anita this morning. And it was a major topic again this morning because everybody's just amazed. Ran into Jill Baffert, Bob's wife, obviously this morning, and she's like, "My God, you had neck surgery?" And so I was showing her the picture of my neck and grossed her out with. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but
well, let's see.
This is the scar right there. I don't know if it's showing up or not, but
wow.
Anyhow, it's probably the scariest surgery I've ever had because it was so close to the spinal cord. But when I woke up in recovery, the numbness in my hands and arms was gone. The burning on the back of my skull felt like I had 2 coffee pots on either side of my head. And all of that was gone when I woke up. And I remember waking up in recovery and my arms were under the blankets and I started feeling my fingers one at a time. And I was like, and then I wiggled my feet and then I opened my eyes and the surgeon was there and Dr. Wong, he said, "Is everything all right?" And I said, "Yeah, everything's good." I said, "But, all the numbness is gone." And I said, "Is this going to come back or is this what it is?" He said, "No, it's not coming back." So it's pretty cool what I'm feeling right now.
Man, that's great to hear because I tell people, friendship aside, you're one of the great comeback stories. Twice you retired because of your knees. Twice you come back with success. I remember when you told me that you were going to step aside from the broadcasting world and go back to riding in 2013. And I thought then, man, I hope this works. And all you did was win the Preakness with Oxbow, Beholder in the Distaff of the Breeders' Cup, and then Mucho Macho Man in the Classic. So you made a good decision, Gary.
Well, I did for the time being. I look back now and I think, man, did I completely lose my mind? I mean, I gave up probably the cushiest job in the world working for NBC and I was doing a lot of stuff outside of it, but I wouldn't change anything any of my decisions. And, now I've been fortunate enough to fall back in with Fox and doing some broadcasting again and doing what I love with horse racing. But, you make decisions as you go along in life, and that's what it's all about. And I look right now, and it's been 3 months, since the injury happened, and it's gone by so quickly. And the older I get, the quicker the time goes by. So I'm just enjoying everything that's coming my way, and horses are what has put everything in line for me from the time that I started.
From that little boy in Idaho.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? And Mom and Dad still in the same house that I was raised in Boise, Idaho, and they're proud of all 3 of their boys. And my mother had a spinal injury 7-8 years ago that was a lot more serious than mine. So that burning that I felt in my arms and the legs and things, that's something that my mom deals with every single day. So I don't know how she does it and keeps a smile on her face because pain is not a fun thing.
You've had to fight through it. One of the things that I always thought horse racing should maybe not emphasize, but at least not be afraid to touch on it, is the danger of being a jockey. Because let's face it, look at MMA. People like to see people go out there and risk themselves and put themselves in danger. They just do. And I don't know of any sport where the ambulance is always following them right during the event, like in a horse race, right? And
right.
I was up in Chicago at Arlington when you took one of your worst spills. And I mean, it was a frightening thing to be around, and the risk that you take and all jockeys take. I think people need to be aware of it more, because let's face it, all of us can hit a basket. We can shoot a basketball or hit a baseball from childhood. You have some idea, but none of us very few of us will ever ride a horse, 35 miles an hour, just inches from each other in a horse race. It just doesn't, you cannot relate to that. You know what I'm saying?
No, when I had this appointment with Dr. Wong, it was a 2-week follow-up, and that was the first time I'd seen the hardware that they put in my neck. And just so people know, they did a quadruple fusion and used the bone from my C4 vertebrae was fractured in half, and it was actually up against my spinal cord. So I'm very lucky that I wasn't a quadriplegic at the time of the accident. And I'm sure, that things have added up, the falls over the years. But he told me, he said, listen, this is going to take 6 months to a year to fully heal, but you'll have no restrictions when you are healed. I said, wait a minute. So you're telling me if I want to ride, I can ride? He said, oh, absolutely. I started laughing. I said, you know what? I said, it's a good thing I'm 55 years old, because I'd do it again right now. And my good friend, Victor Espinoza, I'm sure people in horse racing have followed what's happened to him over the past year with the accident at Del Mar, working out a horse in the morning and had a spinal injury very similar to mine. And he's back riding again. I thought to myself, when he announced that he was coming back, I said, is he nuts? And I'm saying that after I had my injury. And I was thinking, there's no way I would come back. Now here I am. And believe me, if I was a young man right now, and with the technology they have, there's no doubt in my mind that I would come back. But, I faced a big battle when I came back in 2013, and Father Time just keeps marching on, and it's a young man's sport. And I was able to do it at a high level in my 50s and with all the hardware in my body. So I feel very fortunate. But yeah, you're right. It's dangerous, but it's what we choose to do, what we love. Now we got dogs barking in the background. My 4 dogs, and I think Stanley Steamer is showing up right now. So welcome to the world of Gary Stevens. It's real life out here.
I love the world of Gary Stevens. I've been in it for a long time. It's always fun. Angie and Maddy good? Hi to the girls for me, your wife and daughter. They're all good?
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. Actually, this morning, Maddy was taking her sweet time getting ready for school today, and it's a bit of a hike to her school. It's a Catholic school. Enya. So sorry about that. Just forgive me for this for a few minutes.
Are you kidding? That's what makes this show.
Oh, the choir started. The choir has started. Hey, Enya, come here. Come join my party. Come here. So anyhow, Maddy was taking her time getting ready for school, and she was getting a special award that she didn't know about, and it was for her being a good Christian and saying hi to people in the hallway. So they recognized her this morning before school started up, and I'm very proud of my little girl.
It shows. I can see it on your face, pal, and that's great. I'm talking with Gary Stevens, Hall of Fame jockey, one of the greats of all time, the youngest jockey to reach $100 million in earnings, the second youngest jockey to be ever inducted into the Racing Hall of Fame, among his many awards and over 5,100 career victories. And it's impossible to say, I guess it's impossible to say, what are the 2 or 3 that stand out after 5,100? I have a few personally that stand out for me just knowing you. And of course, Mucho Macho Man was one of them, because just of the comeback and to win the Classic. And, that was a true great Cinderella comeback story. And it happened not far from Hollywood, which you know about as well. That was just one of my favorites. I'm sure there's too many to talk about, really, Gary.
Well, you talk about that, and that was the one thing that was missing from my resume was a Breeders' Cup Classic. I'd run second in a few of them, and just finally accepted that that wasn't going to happen. It wasn't in the cards. The racing gods said Gary Stevens won his 3 Derbies and 3 Preakness, 3 Belmonts, but he's not going to win a Breeders' Cup Classic. And when Mucho Macho Man came along, out of the blue in 2013. I didn't expect that. Did not expect that. I didn't expect to ride a filly like Beholder after being out of the game for 7.5 years. So I've been really blessed, and there are so many great memories. And I know you're going to ask me who's my favorite of all time, and that's an impossible question to answer. But I think still deep down in the bottom of my heart, he had his 25th birthday 2 days ago, and that'd be Silver Charm.
Yeah.
And I saw a video of him, and he hasn't changed any. He's still he's just a character. They'd put a new blanket on him, and wintertime in Lexington, you're living it right now. And they turned him out in his paddock with this new blanket on. He went and found the biggest mud puddle he could find, laid down, rolled in it like he was a 2-year-old, and he had to dirty that thing up. And that was Silver Charm. He'd get in the mix of a battle. He loved it, and he's just a real character.
That whole run all the way through in '97 was amazing, all the way through up to the Triple Crown. And I as a fan, it was fun to watch. As a broadcaster, it was fun to cover and interview you. And you and Baffert and Silver Charm basically looked the same as you did in '97.
Yeah, Baffert's hair was still white, though. I mean, he had white hair back in '97. Silver Charm, he was gray. He's white now.
Yeah.
And with what hair I do have left, it's got a lot of gray in it now too. So we might look a little bit the same when I've got this lid on my head, but trust me, when I take this hat off, it's a big difference from the mullet that I had in the 80s and the 90s.
I always enjoy listening to you, and I pay attention. Nobody thinks I listen, but I do, when I'm out there reporting and you were up there and you'd be analyzing the race. I just love to get that, to hear what you said. And it helped a lot, especially in post-race interviews when you'd break it down. And then I was getting ready to interview the trainer. I'd remember what you said. And I'm glad you're going to get back into it. You're going to be with Fox this summer. You're going to be in New York, their new series, and like a couple of months up in New York, and watch Gary each day on Fox. I mean, it's not like tune in this weekend. That's going to be a stretch.
Yeah, it is a stretch, and I'm excited about it. My oldest son, Tori, we call him TC. Yeah. He and his wife, Jamie, and my grandson, Trip, they live in Saratoga. So I haven't got to spend a lot of time with my grandson, any of my grandkids for that matter. But I'm really looking forward to not only getting up to Saratoga and covering the races up there, the great racing that they have. I'm going to miss Del Mar, but looking forward to Saratoga and looking forward to joining up with my son again.
Oh, that'd be great. And I look forward to listening to you again. And, last week we were talking Oscars and one of the great racing movies of all time, Seabiscuit. I happen to know the guy that played George Wolfe in that movie. He's a good friend. I mean, I was really, I've always been, I told you, I wrote a story one time. Remember when I was writing for ESPN? It was on ESPN.com Racing. And I think the headline was Gary Stevens, it's no act. And it was a compliment that you were really an actor. It wasn't just a guy showing up, a jockey being a jockey.
Well, after all this time has gone by, Richard Mandela, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest trainers that I've ever ridden for, and the trainer of Beholder, the great Beholder. One day I was out in the paddock and walked up. I believe Mr. Hughes of Spendthrift Farm and the owner of Beholder was out there, and Richard says, all these years I thought that Stevens was one of the greatest riders of all times. And he said, after Seabiscuit came out, he said, I figured out he was just a good actor, acting like a jockey. So that's the sense of humor. But man, again, I was blessed to have been able to work with those actors, Jeff Bridges, Chris Cooper, the whole group, and Toby Maguire, and then to come back and have success again. And it actually caused a lot of problems with my business. The great Warren Studi, one of the greatest trainers of all time out here on the West Coast, who I felt like should have been in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, should be, yes.
Old cowboy, hard boot. And he told my agent, he said, this Gary, he said, he's got to decide if he wants to be a jockey or a movie star. He said, because every time I get a good horse, he's off doing something else. But I rode some great horses for him, and hey, sometimes when opportunity knocks at the door, you've
Yeah.
got to take chances, and sometimes we don't have a lot of time to weigh everything, the pluses, the minuses, but somebody's been looking out for me for sure.
Well, there's a reason for it. You create your own luck, in my opinion. You've worked hard to do that. And speaking of luck,
Ah,
Ronnie Jenkins, do you remember? I don't know if you get so many of them. I know you probably don't. Do you remember I called you just after I saw the first episode of Luck on HBO? I don't know if you
yes, I
remember that.
do.
And I
Yes, I
told
do.
I told you scared me. That's how good you were, playing a strung out, beaten up, trying to hang in there jockey. And man, it just kind of blew me away. I said, I know Gary, and that's not Gary. That is some real acting going on there.
Yeah, and again, things happen for a reason, and we were all devastated when Luck was canceled, and it happened very, very quickly. And I'm thinking back, and when I said that how good I had it before I put the jock boots back on, doing Luck, working for NBC, doing some work for HRTV at the time, and we got canceled. And I thought, what what am I going to do? I just re-signed a 5-year contract, and that my life was set. Well, it wasn't meant to be, and that's when I made the decision to come back to race riding. It had a big impact on me. But looking back now, running with the guys that I was running with, and I believe it or not, I was starting to fall into that character a little bit, and I'm not sure I'd be alive right now had luck continued. To be honest with you, um, got to be good friends with Nick Nolte. Nick's a great guy, but you don't want to spend nobody can hang with Nick Nolte. I'll just tell you that right now. One of the sweetest guys I've ever met, and how he does it, I have no idea, but he does it good.
I'd like to know his secret. He's amazing. He's got to be like in his 70s now.
Yeah,
I
he
mean, yeah.
is in his mid 70s, and we'd all like to know how he does it. Yeah, he's got a constitution. I guarantee you, if he was a racehorse, he would have raced well into his 20s and been good at it still.
Will we see you back in a movie? We got to get you back in a movie or a TV series or something in between your Fox reporting.
Oh, I hope so, Kenny. It's not
Yeah.
something that I was waiting for, this day to come of retirement. And it was funny. Well, it's not funny. It's the truth of it. I'd already gotten a doctor's release after the injury, and I had some good horses to ride later in the week. The injury happened on November 17th. I'll never forget. And I had some good horses coming up at the end of the meet. And I got the doctor's release to return, and they had my x-ray results. And I went to see a chiropractor and gave him the x-ray results, not the pictures, just what they had read. And he said, "I'm not touching you." And he said, "You need to see a surgeon." And I called up my longtime friend, Dr. Taboni, who did my first knee surgeries on me. He's at USC Medical and at Curlin and Job here in Los Angeles. And I read him the report the best I could. And he said, "You need to get up to Los Angeles ASAP and be careful, don't get in a wreck, and get an MRI."
Wow.
Had the MRI done. And he said, "Have Angie bring that to USC tomorrow morning." Angie dropped it off at 7:30. I was at Santa Anita at Clocker's Corner, and my phone rang at 8 o'clock. And I said, "Sweet Pea, what's up?" And it was Dr. Taboni. Said, "This isn't Sweet Pea. This is Dr. T, and you're done. You will never ride a merry-go-round again, let alone a racehorse." He said, you're in dire need of surgery right now." So that's how it was broke
Wow.
to me. And that's what I love about that guy. He just told me the way it was, and made it short and sweet. But the turn of events that have happened over the years have brought some great things to me. But getting back to the acting, hopefully there will be something in the future, because I enjoyed it, and it kind of gives me the adrenaline rush. Believe it or not, that racing and even what we do, when
Yeah.
we're on live television,
Yeah.
When you get it right, you get it right. And when you get it wrong, it's out there for everybody. And you just try and get it right every time and improve on the job you did the day before.
Dogs can bark. It doesn't phase us.
Cars. Well, we got cars going on. There's helicopters flying. I live up in the San Gabriel Mountains
Yeah.
in a canyon, and we've actually got 3 reservoirs above us. And I don't know if you remember the movie back in the 80s, Earthquake.
I remember it well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you remember when the dam broke?
Yes.
And all hell broke loose?
Yes.
That's where I live. Those dams are above me. So the helicopters that are flying up, we got another storm coming in tomorrow. And we've had 21 inches of rain since the start of Santa Anita on December 26th. And we haven't had a winter like this for probably 30 years. And we're about out of drought mode right now. But I live below those reservoirs. So we got helicopters, we got dogs, we got Stanley Steamer, we got the housekeeper in here today. And so I apologize for all the noise, but that is who we are.
And that's why I love you. You know that. A great friend and one of the all-time great jockeys. And, if you tell me in a year from now you're going to start riding again, I won't be stunned.
Kenny, if I say that, if I even mention it, you just come and put a noose around my neck because beat Angie to it because that's and Maddy. I can honestly say I'm relieved right now. I'm happy at the way things are going right now. And mostly I'm happy with the health that I have, and I'm looking forward to getting back out on the golf course when the doc says it's time, and just living life, taking trips with my family, and I put my time in, and it's over with. So I'm good with it inside, if you know what I mean.
I do. Gary, listen, I thank you so much. We'll get you back on anytime you want. You can just pop in whenever to say, I want to talk today. Fine. That's good. You know that.
Kenny, I love you, and I appreciate being on your show, and I'd love to be on again for sure, brother.
I love you, pal. Again, to Angie and Maddy, big hugs and best wishes with the Fox shows coming up this summer, and I'll see you before then. So thanks again, Gary.
All right, Kenny. Thank you.
Gary Stevens, one of the greats of all time and one of my favorite people of all time. And we'll be back with more of the Horse Racing Show. Remember to subscribe and like us on YouTube, among other outlets. We'll be back after this.